Okay, Mayor, we're live.
Great. So today is April 21st, 2021, and the time is 7:18, and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council regular virtual meeting. And I believe we have an invocation by Dr. Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Vamos a leer en Salmos 123. La palabra de Dios dice, a ti alce mis ojos, a ti que habitas en los cielos. He aquí como los ojos de los siervos miran a la mano de sus señores, y como los ojos de la sierva a la mano de su señora, así nuestros ojos miran a Jehová, nuestro Dios, hasta que tenga misericordia de nosotros. Oremos. Gracious God, we thank you for your presence today. Help us to look to you for direction and for help. Thank you for your mercy that are new every morning, your faithfulness that is true to all generations. We pray, Lord, today for our city. We pray for those who've experienced loss, who've experienced suffering. We pray for those, Lord, who are in need of help. We pray, God, that somehow, some way you would provide that necessary help. Thank you for our city, our leadership. Thank you for the servants of the city, God. We commit this time to you, that we honor you and serve each other effectively and efficiently. In the gracious name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for that, Dr. Flores. I'm almost forgetting the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can stand, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the
United States
republic
and to the republic for which it stands,
indivisible,
one nation,
God,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. I kind of twisted my tongue there, huh? City Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Daniel Damian.
Here.
Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Avila.
Here.
Mayor Emmanuel Estrada.
Here. And City Attorney, is there anything to report out from closed session?
Sorry, having a little problem. Thank you, Mayor. The City Council considered multiple items in closed session. No final action was taken. Therefore, there's no reportable action, and that does conclude my report.
Great, thank you. At this moment, I will make a motion to adjourn the special meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. Any objections? No. So City special meeting is adjourned. Announcements. Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening, and each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. At this point, I move on to proclamations, commendations, and presentations. It's not on here, but since we have Pastor Flores, I do want to thank him and his team at Church of the Redeemer for hosting that vaccination event. It was a pretty successful one, and I saw it, and it was great to see Church of the Redeemer do take action and help our community out. And I know they've been doing a really great job and a big effort during this whole pandemic. So I wanted to thank you for that.
And Mayor Estrada, I just want to let you know Marie Contreras is here.
Yes, Marie.
Hi, Marie.
I'm gonna start adding you to our roll call so we don't forget.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, thank you. And so I believe at this point we do have a presentation from Prism Insurance, and that's presented
Mayor?
by yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo your sentiments and thank Pastor Flores and the Church of the Redeemer for being a wonderful partner for the vaccination site. And they really put in all the hard work on a hot day to ensure that, those vaccines were dedicated to our community. And so this was a partnership between Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, Rite Aid, the Church of the Redeemer, the City of Baldwin Park. And I just want to acknowledge everybody that contributed their part, especially the Church of the Redeemer, they've been extraordinary partners during COVID. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. You started it, so we're just going to do it right now, right?
Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my colleagues will all say the same thing. We're very grateful for everything that you've done, Pastor Flores, along with, your outstanding team and volunteers that occurred. I believe it was last Thursday, if I remember correctly. It's a blur sometimes to me. But for everything that you guys have been doing, I know this was close to your home. Considering the passing of your father as a result of COVID. So again, thank you for stepping up and providing not only spiritual guidance but also protection for our community, because that goes a long way. So thank you for that. I also want to thank our colleague, Councilmember Garcia, for essentially kind of getting this ball rolling for this one pop-up. As a result of making a phone call and speaking with the Congresswoman's office, we were able to begin this partnership that flourished on this particular day. And we're hoping that Rite Aid will be able to come out and saw the benefits that they were providing in our community and continue this at least on a once a week basis. So hopefully we can continue that either at the Church of the Redeemer or somewhere else in our cities. So thank you again for all of everyone's assistance and participation.
Great, thank you. Any other council members?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Damien.
Yeah, I as well would like to thank Pastor Flores and the Church of the Redeemer for all their great work that they've done, and Councilmember Garcia for reaching out to Congresswoman Napolitano to make this happen. I'm looking forward and I'm very excited to see the collaboration between our faith-based organizations as well as St. John the Baptist. They just had their second dose of vaccine on Saturday. So it's very exciting to see how involved our churches are within our community. And I hope that we continue this partnership along to be able to vaccinate as many people as we can. So Pastor Flores, thank you very much. Appreciate all your hard work.
Mayor, Matt?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
I also want to thank Pastor Flores for hosting this event, and thank you, Councilwoman Garcia, for helping this event actually happen. I am very proud of our faith organizations here in Baldwin Park. You guys are doing so much with the food drives and all the vaccine drives. As Councilmember Damien said, St. John's the Church is doing the same thing. So without our leaders, our faith leaders, I think we would be very lost. So thank you, Pastor Flores, again for everything that you're doing and that you continue to do for our community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I think we're all grateful for Church of the Redeemer. I think I told Pastor Flores when I saw him that we were going to hire the Church of the Redeemer team to join our traffic division, because every time they run an event, it's always smooth. There's always parking and everything's running smooth. So, we're going to integrate you into the city. And so thank you for that. And I believe we're moving on to our PRISM insurance presentation by Courtney Ramirez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Courtney Ramirez and I'm from Alliant Insurance Services. Thank you for that. I can tell you when to turn the slide. If you want to go to the next one, please. Or did you want me to, you'll direct it? Looks like it. Okay. So I want to give a real brief overview of the city's insurance program and a little bit about the PRISM pool. I know that you guys have a lot of business to do today, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. And I'm also going to go over a little bit of information about the insurance market, as well as some of the services that are available to Baldwin Park and some that you have already implemented. PRISM is a member-directed risk-sharing pool. The city joined PRISM in 2019. It's formally called the CSAC EIA, if anyone's heard of that pool. It is now called PRISM, Public Risk Innovation Solutions and Management. Essentially, it is the largest member-directed risk-sharing pool in the nation, and certainly the largest in the state of California. Next. In total, we have over 300 organizations in the PRISM pool with over 2,050 sub-members. So that would include other JPAs that join the pool, 55 of the 58 California counties, and 80% of the cities in California participate in at least one of the PRISM programs or another, as well as other public entities. Recently, PRISM has announced an initiative to expand on a nationwide basis. So lots of really great things happening with the pool. Next. Okay, so the programs available to the city are quite expansive, but right now what the city participates in is the general liability program called the GL1 program, and also participates in the optional excess program to give it more limits. You buy your work comp through that program, property insurance to cover the city assets, crime insurance, and cyber liability. The pool has been around since 1979. Next. I want to talk a little bit about some of the key industry metrics because these are really important to help set the ground for where the insurance market is going and what we're seeing for a lot of the renewals right now. But going into the second quarter of 2020, and we still don't have the full grasp of how 2020 ended from a financial perspective, but it's very safe to say that based on the 2020 results that we have, the combined ratio is now over 100%. So what that means is that carriers are paying out more in claims than they have taken in insurance premiums. Policyholder surplus continues to be healthy, but because of a lot of the losses that are being seen, both these large emergence of property losses, these catastrophic things that we're hearing about in the news, as well as liability issues that not only are happening, but could be exacerbated over the coming years, carriers are really holding on to that surplus. Next. For the property and liability market, it is now in what we call a hard market. What that means is that we have seen a large uptick in frequency and severity in claims in both of those coverage areas. From a property perspective, since 2017, we have seen a significant number of catastrophic losses across the globe, starting with Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria in 2017. Continuing to see large wildfires across California, with 2020 being the record-breaking year. Everything from convective storms in the Midwest to Hurricane Uri, which we saw in Texas, that freeze storm back in February. These, unfortunately, have been market-changing events. The other thing that we're dealing with right now is, from a liability perspective, defendant mistrust, litigation funding, social inflation, and something that we call anchoring. And I'm happy to go into those in detail if you'd like, but I'll keep it brief and high level for just now. Essentially, for public entities, especially if you have police or fire, we are seeing a tightening in that market. Capacity has been cut, and what that means is that carriers look, because of claims and things that are happening and their fear of expanding and exposing is a better word, they cut their capacity and the amount of limits that they're willing to provide. What we have seen are carriers that are leaving California, a number of them, increasing their minimum premiums, restricting what they want, coverage that they want to provide. We've seen key carriers that only want to write excess of a 3 or 5 million retention now if you have police. And with that pricing, it's a supply and demand thing, has gone up substantially. Work comp leading into this year was relatively stable, and we weren't really sure how COVID-19 would impact work comp claims. But what we have seen is that when they happen for municipality, they have a tendency to exacerbate and do so quite quickly. And so we are seeing some nominal rate increases on the work comp market. carriers that are increasing minimum premiums or retention levels as well. And lastly, cyber liability continues to be an issue. It is more so this year than ever. In fact, I would call cyber the hardest market or the hardest coverage line that we have this year. We have seen almost $6 trillion in cyber incidents, with municipalities and healthcare being the largest target for cyber criminals. So you should definitely expect upward pressure on those rates and possibly coverage restrictions. Next. As far as risk mitigation, certainly risk mitigation and implementing services that will help the city will improve its overall insurance portfolio, hopefully reduce losses, and that will in turn reduce premiums, or in theory it should. Currently, the city is already working on several risk mitigation efforts, including utilizing LMS for compliance training and employee development programs, implementing consultative services utilized to assist with OSHA inspections. We are providing insurance, or helping to provide insurance provisions of proposed contracts, which are essentially transferring risk when you have a contract with another vendor. AHR's risk management team is coordinating with PRISM to perform updated appraisals on city property and assets, and engaging in ongoing discussions with PRISM regarding important updates on trends, premiums, risk mitigation sort of things, and training that's available. Next. This is a sample of our insurance requirements and contracts that we provide for the city, where we will look at a contract and we will provide guidance on the hold harmless language, as well as what limits should be requested from vendors to help transfer as much risk as possible. Next. Here are some of the services that PRISM provides, or the resources that PRISM provides. This is just a sampling. They provide anything from PRISM TV, which includes 24/7 access to hundreds of webcasts, on-demand training. They have a learning management system that I referenced earlier, and city staff is already utilizing those resources, as well as a streaming library. They'll conduct in-person and web-based training as well. Just a few things, like I said, happy to expand on those at any time. Next. These are some of the risk control items that they have on the risk control menu. So we have a variety of resources available, including assistance with policy procedures. So where we will take copies of your current policies and procedures and look at them to ensure that they meet best practices. Next. And that's it. So I went through that very quickly. I apologize for that. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to address.
Great, thank you. So do any council members or staff have any questions? Nope. Okay, well, thank you, Courtney. Thank you for that presentation. Very informative and useful. Of course, we want to stay on top of all of that. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And so at this moment, we move on to proclamation in honor of Earth Day. And I have it here with me. And of course, the city of Baldwin Park proclaims April 22nd, 2021 to be Earth Day. We want to do everything we can to be green and keep our city healthy with clean and fresh air. So I encourage all of you to join us on Earth Day. Be productive, take a walk, reduce your dependence on fossil fuels for that day. Maybe even go on a bike ride with Councilmember Hernandez. But yes, so thank you. And then of course it says, now therefore I, Emmanuel J. Estrada, Mayor of the City of Baldwin Park, along with Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Avila, Councilmember Daniel Damian, Monica Garcia, Paul C. Hernandez, City Treasurer Maria Contreras, and City Clerk Marlon Garcia do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2021 as Earth Day in the City of Baldwin Park, and encourage all citizens to engage in environmentally responsible lifestyles in an effort to sustain the natural world around us. Thank you. City Clerk, is there any public communications?
No, there are none.
great. So at this moment, I will move from public communications and I will move on to the consent calendar. Is there any item council is willing or looking to pull?
Yes, Mayor, I want to pull item number 5.
Great, okay. Is there any other items? If not, I will make a motion to pass items 1 through 6, excluding number 5. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? No, so items 1 through 6, excluding number 5, pass. And at this moment, Councilmember Damien, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, I believe this is to you in regards to the RFP.
Yes, that's correct.
So I reviewed the staff report. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Now, under recommendation item number 3, it says authorize the Director of Public Works to execute all requests for services task orders issued to the consultant on a project by project basis in an amount not to exceed $120,000. We had decided that we were going to do $25,000. Anything above 25 would come to the council. So can we change the language on this for the agreements?
Yes, absolutely. So this recommendation, this item number 3, was put in there because I believe that the direction that was given in January was to put a pause on it and to be bringing all these design services. So we're merely bringing it in for consideration, but absolutely, if the council's direction is to revert to the 25,000 per the purchasing policy, we can definitely put that language in there.
Now, let me ask you, Sam, if there was something that was urgent and you couldn't wait 2 weeks to bring it to the council, is this something that you can bring prior to that? Or what would be the, is there any delay if we were to put that at the $25,000 cap?
So yes and no. So the only delay is in the, agendizing and, scheduling and putting it in the, city council agenda. The idea is to expedite some of the projects. Every project gets approved through the CIP. Then it's presented to council 3 times after that. So when we go and authorize to bid, for example, it comes back, and before we authorize any construction, it comes back. So projects are, CIP, authorization to bid, and then construction. This will be a 4th time that the project will come to the city council. So we're just, we were using this process before. It does expedite design services. It allows us to be flexible and get on the design portion of the projects before they come to council for authorization to bid or to, award of contract.
Got it. And then a couple of the questions that I have is, basically you selected a total of 8 consultants, including the one that we have, so 7 new ones. And it stated that a panel of 3 staff members selected these consultants. These are these 3 staff members within the Public Works Department, or which staff members were these that selected these consultants?
Yes, so I have invited John Bechet, who managed the whole process. He's on the call. And so I will defer this question over to him. He might be able to explain that whole process.
Perfect.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'll be happy to answer this question. So the 3 panel member for the selection of these consultants were one from Public Works was myself, and the city planner and the building official of the city. And the director of Park and Rec was helping out in selection of one of the landscape disciplines or area.
Yeah, and that leads me actually to my next question, John. I don't know if either John or Sam can answer this. So I see that you categorize the consultants 1 through 8, and you basically selected them based on their specialized engineering service. So my question is, when there's a project that we have, how are you going to make the selection from these consultants to give that project to them? Are you going to base it off of, depending on the project, and their specialized design service or engineering service, or is it the lowest bidder? How are you going to select which consultant to give that specific project to?
Yes, if I may answer. So specialized projects or any related projects to grant funding administration or stormwater compliance will be directly to these specialized consultants. However, for other projects such as civil and transportation design project related project, it would be an RFP will be sent to these consultants to 2 or 3 firms and selecting based on best approach, understanding of the project, and their cost proposal.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, my only concern is if we can get recommendation number 3, if we can reduce that down back to the 25,000, like we had discussed in January. And that, if any other council members have any questions that you guys want to ask.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Given the amount of time that these items come to our attention, lowering the amount to 25,000 from the 125, I think it's going to actually boggle down the process and add more complexity to a process in which we're trying to be more efficient. So if anything, I would ask if the council member Damian feels obliged, perhaps we can consider a higher threshold. Because 25, I mean, the reason we have, Sam and his team is, we give him the authority through the CPI process. We agree as to what those projects are going to be for the next current fiscal year. And then those projects are sent to us. I do share the same concern that my colleague does. And I think this is something that I asked for when we discussed this was for Sam and his team to develop a policy as to exactly how those folks or the contracts would be given to the on-call individuals. That I have, I absolutely agree with the council member Damian, because again, that just provides a little bit of transparency, not only for us, but also to all the vendors that are on the list. So they know exactly, what the process is going to be as to how, they may be asked to bid for these individual things. Asking them, for each of these contracts that come to us on a $25,000 basis, to me, it looks like we're just going to add another layer of bureaucracy, and I don't necessarily see that as a good thing, right? We're trying to be efficient, and by lowering that threshold, I think causes more of the issue. Perhaps Sam, do you know on generally what's the range of projects that we're doing that through the CPIs? Is it on a medium average? Is it 500? Is it 100,000? Is it 80,000? Is it 25,000? What would your for the last say 3 years, what would be the medium for that? And maybe that's where we start as a number, perhaps, Councilmember Damian.
Yeah. So without having the actual number, running the calculations in the median, I can definitely say that the vast majority of our projects are over 100,000, with the median being around 300 to 500. We do have several projects that are in the $1 million range. And as you know, we have that water project, which is in the $14 million range. So that would skew the median towards the higher end. But the vast majority of the projects would be around 300 to 500,000.
And Sam, are you talking about the design costs? Because I think they're asking about okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I'm talking about the CIP. I think that's what.
Yeah. So they want to know the average of the design costs, because those are the ones that would be coming back to City Council, depending on if they're less than or over whatever dollar amount we agree on.
Right. Yeah. So design costs for most of the projects that are around 300,000, I could make a quick calculation. So, I would say it would have to be in the $1 million range. So, the typical projects are, under 25,000.
No, I appreciate that. And so again, Councilmember Damian, I fully respect that, we want transparency, and I agree with you, even in regards to the policy. However, I think by lowering the threshold to a $25,000 level, it's going to slow things down. Even though I know Sam's being as polite as possible and so forth, maybe the alternative that we start with, instead of lowering the threshold to 25,000, is that we ask Sam, through a memo that could be placed on the agenda as a consent item of, these are the projects that, Sam and team, because it's not just Sam and team have awarded. And if there's an item that we have questions, when these come up, we can pull them out of the special, out of the consent item. And then again, that provides transparency. So we all know, but also the public and more importantly, the vendors that are part of this process know exactly, who's being awarded what and so forth. And it moves the process forward without providing any or adding any new barriers. If you would be open to that, in the meantime, Councilmember Damian, and we could use that as a pilot, right? We try it for 6 months, and if it doesn't work, then we come down to whatever that number is, of lower than 120,000, because I think that's what the staff report has, and we could try to address that process. That's
Is what you're saying for them to bring it into a staff report, and you want us to address it after the fact, after they've already approved it?
Oh, Mayor, can I add? I think.
Yes.
I think I understand what Councilmember Hernandez is asking for. So I think what we're trying to get at here is efficiency, and trying to identify a number that would be based on maybe the last 6 months, or maybe 6 months to a year, of these types of projects that have gone through at the $125,000 level, to allow us to see what is the average request that would otherwise have to come back to council every time at the $25,000 threshold, if that makes sense. And I think what Councilmember Hernandez is asking for is like data for a certain amount of time, so that we can identify a number, a threshold that would create the efficiencies, but also the transparency that you're looking for. And I think that's where, Sam, you can also make a recommendation, because I agree that we don't want projects to be bottlenecked and slowed down, especially since the council meets twice a month regularly. Sometimes we do have special meetings, but that would slow down projects. And so I think we're trying to identify that number that would still promote the efficiencies, but at the same time, deliver what you're asking for, Councilman Damian. Can
I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
Sorry. So Shannon, I don't recall correctly, but I don't know. So the 120,000 limit, before it was $120,000, what was it at?
25.
Was it 25?
Sure. The municipal code provides that any contract over $25,000 come to the city council for your approval. You're approving these contracts tonight, so that's happening. However, for transparency, council may wish to have those come before them at a different threshold or at the same threshold. And so it's your prerogative. It does streamline the process to have already done the RFP. I don't know if Sam has an idea of how many contracts would be coming to council per year over 25,000. It is some additional work. Most of them are template staff reports, but it is additional additional paperwork.
Yeah. So do you know what the average cap is around anywhere around here?
So go ahead.
No, Sam, I was just going to ask if you know approximately how many work orders you would have annually. You know,
So-
is it 48? That means there's probably average of two every meeting, that type of thing.
So yeah, so at the 120,000 threshold, that would mean that any project over 1.2 million would come to the council for design services. This is fully funded construction and everything. So because more than half of projects are under that, that means that about 30 to 40 projects will be coming to the city council on a yearly basis to approve these design services.
Right. So do you know what the threshold is in cities, in neighboring cities, West Covina, anywhere around here?
Yeah, so I do not know offhand, but I'd be happy to do the research and you know, come back to the council with that information.
Okay, and then another question. I remember reading the audit, but I don't have it on me. Was the $120,000 threshold mentioned in there? Do you guys know, or can you verify, double check?
It was mentioned. I think the auditors, either they were a little confused or the way it was written is a little bit confusing, because they made the point that the contract needs to be approved by the city council. The contracts are approved by the city council. What you're doing tonight is approving the contracts. Some cities approve the contract and then there's no limit. It never comes back to the city council. If you were doing an RFP for every project, then it would come back to you. But what we've done here is an on-call RFP to save staff and the council from RFPing every single project. So it's really up to the council for you, depending on how much you want to monitor these projects and, you know, at what threshold you want them to come back to you.
So if we already have select contractors, why are we going through RFP every time if it comes to council?
That's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah,
So-
we've done the RFP. We'll only do the RFP once. I think what was mentioned once this is done, if we have a project and there's 3 or 4 firms that could handle the work, it's not really an RFP, but it's just soliciting a bid from them. It's a very informal, very quick process. We already know they're qualified. They just give us, you know, what the cost is, their approach to the work, and their understanding of the work. It's much simpler, quicker process. I think that John outlined, as opposed to a formal RFP that you know, we're looking at tonight, which has taken several months to get us to this point.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes. Mayor
So
Pro
so we're simply getting bids from these services. For example, for landscaping, I only see one company for landscaping, so that means we would only get a bid from them and we won't have any other options. Is that correct, Sam?
No, so we categorize them in a manner where we're highlighting based on our evaluation, we're highlighting their competence and qualifications in certain areas, and all of these firms have overlap. So some firms, you know, do some other services that other firms. So there's overlap, and the idea is to you know, highlight you know, where they're strong in and categorize them that way. But all along, we've been thinking of diversifying, having a you know, option to be able to respond to projects quickly with firms that have been pre-qualified and have demonstrated that they can do the work. So we're not pigeonholing anyone to any one service. John and the team will, on a project-by-project basis, review, you know, who they want to bring into the fold for any particular project.
So for
And
example,
also-
let's say we're talking landscaping, sorry. What other firms here do the landscaping architecture from this list?
John, would you like to?
Sure. So for these firms, we have Wildan can do landscaping. Other consultants, they work together with other sub-consultants to do landscaping, and they have proposed other landscaping firms and similar projects that we're asking for, such as Tate and Onward. These are the firms that highlighted these landscaping.
So if we're requesting a bid for landscaping, you're gonna request it from all those three
Correct.
sources, okay?
Unless it's specialized for, one consultant. I'll use David Bowles Design as an example. If they're specialized in certain type of landscape design, then we can just go to them because we know they're already pre-qualified, they know the work, and we can go straight to them. But for majority of the time, we'll go to the 3 different requests for services from more than one consultant to get that healthy competition between and the diversity between consultants.
So before, and I'm just saying landscaping because it's the first one on there. So before you pick the landscaping, David Volt's Design, you looked at all the ones that you have up here on the list, the quality of work, the reliability, the price. You compare all of that before you decided on this particular landscaping? Is that how you did that, or how did you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the whole idea is to pair, to best fit the best firm with the best price for any particular project.
Okay, I don't see a problem with capping it at 25, and if need be, we need to have an emergency meeting. I mean, it is our job to come into our meetings whenever we need to. So if there's an urgency event in any projects that you feel is urgent, I don't feel why we shouldn't be able to attend the meetings. That is our job, to come in as an emergency if need be. So I'm not opposed to bringing it down to 25 as it was at one point.
Sam,
Mayor?
If I may, really quick, Sam.
Yes.
How many projects do you anticipate under 120,000 that you would get in a month or in a year?
Yeah, so that's hard to say. I haven't really looked at those numbers, but it is going to be more than half of the projects that are currently on our CIP list.
And that's my concern, because let's just say we have 15 out there. Just to throw numbers out, let's just say we have 15 at 120,000. We're looking at 1.8 million. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money if they're all coming in one after another, right? And again, I know they're part of the CIP budget. I know we review it. But again, my point is, we get so many emails that are coming through, and I know you guys are good with sending us emails, but if something gets past us, and now we're looking at, almost $2 million in under this $120,000 cap that didn't really come to us for approval, we're leaving it in your hands. To me, honestly, right now, the way I feel is exactly the way I felt in January. Due to the state audit controller's report and what was reported, it was concerning. And to me, I feel that not until we get our city's finances in order, then I think that maybe we should keep it down at the 25,000 and then gradually move it up, or move it up to the 120. But that is just that was one of my biggest concerns, is that I think that at least for now, keep it at the 25,000. It's not that we're not going to approve them, but at least we have the oversight, and we're not leaving it in your guys' hands. We're the ones that it's going to come to us. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's not like we're not going to approve it, but at least it just gives us the ability to know what projects are coming down the pipeline that you guys are approved, or that we have to approve, that are over that $25,000 mark.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I mean, I can go either way. I'm not committed to one or the other. I am just thinking about, what is efficient, and what would also promote the accountability. Tell me if I'm wrong, Sam, but what I understand as the process is today, we as a city council review the CIP, capital improvement plan, which I'm going to just throw as an example. Let's say it's $10 million and there are, let's say, approximately 10 projects in that CIP plan. So as a council, we review and we approve those projects that are listed, the amounts that we estimate, with per the scope of work, and we will review and adopt the CIP plan or make adjustments. As we move forward, let's say one project in that CIP plan is 1.2 million, like you said. And so for the design services, if it's more than 125,000, then it comes to the council for additional review. Am I correct at this point?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
Okay. So essentially what we're going to be doing, every project has that initial review. And then for the design service, anything above 125,000 comes back for council review and approval as an added measure. And I don't think the controller's office understood that we as a council approved the CIP plan. So that's where I think that's where Shannon is speaking to. Perhaps there was some confusion. But what we're asking for at this point, if we go off of what Councilmember Damien is proposing, is that we're going to be reviewing these projects twice. Once at the CIP plan review and adoption, and then most likely when each one of those projects comes back for design review. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I would imagine that 25,000 is probably a certain percentage of that design, which again, going back to the initial CIP plan, is part of the scope of work. It shouldn't come as any surprise, right? To us, because we've already done the initial review. The second step is an added measure.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah, and
so,
I also, sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
I wanted to note that when the design is complete, it's going to come back to you again to approve design and authorize us to bid. Once we receive the bids, it'll come back to you again for award of contract.
Okay. So that means that each project that is identified in our CIP plan will most likely have 4 reviews from the city council.
Correct.
1, the initial review. 2nd, the design review, because most likely it's going to be more than 25,000. 3rd, when the project is complete. And what was the 4th?
Yeah, so 3rd is when the design is complete, and the 4th is when we award the contract for construction.
Oh, award okay. So in the past, we did go out to a request for proposal for engineering services, and we used one engineering firm. Now, we're going to have multiple engineering firms to choose from. So in addition to these reviews, we're going to be issuing a request for qualification or proposal for each project. And that's what Councilmember Hernandez and I are talking about as far as building in efficiencies. I don't think any one of us are trying to get out of our responsibility of being at council meetings. I think we're just trying to identify what's that number so that it keeps things moving without, we only meet twice a month. So, with each project, how many projects are identified in our CIP plan currently, Sam?
Approximately 48.
Okay. If 48 projects are going to have our eyes for at least 5 times, that's what we're getting at. I don't think any one of us is trying to, do anything unethical, or I think we're just trying to build in efficiencies. And I think what I understand is that the state controller's office didn't understand that we as a council approved the CIP plan from the top, from the beginning. So keep that in mind as we're trying to identify that number. If it's 25,000, so be it, but just expect that it's going to trigger every single project to come back to us. And if that's okay with you, and that's, you know, not too much on our staff, then that's what it will be. But I agree with Councilman Hernandez that there's got to be a number that's a little bit more efficient so that not every project is coming back to us, you know, multiple times.
So Shannon, or anybody else, when was the last CIP approved?
So the CIPs get approved usually about a month following the operational budget, which gets approved in June. And so after June of each year, we come back with a CIP, usually in July or August.
So
the city council approves that.
So potentially without these types of things in there, we're just allowing whatever old council approved to go through, is what you're telling me.
So the previous council approved those projects. Yes, this is true.
So I think it seems like it might be helpful for us to get these back to us so that new council is aware of what's going on and whether we want to approve whatever was approved previously. I think it helps. Councilmember Damian, if you're okay with it, I would maybe suggest that we hold off on this item and that we ask city staff to survey the cities around us and cities around the area and find out what they are capping their projects at.
So, Mayor, and that was exactly my concern, is the fact that we don't know what projects are in the CIP plan that was, because we haven't reviewed it. We won't review it until July. So one of the things, I know West Covina, I think they're capped at $30,000, if I believe. So there's a lot of the cities that they're not at 120,000. Now, one of the things that we can do is maybe meet and see what number above 25,000 we can do for now, or leave it at the 25,000 until we review the new CIP plan that comes out in July. And then once the new, the entire council reviews as to what projects are going to be in that CIP plan, then maybe we can reduce it back down to the 25 or maybe $50,000. But that is my concern. We don't know what projects were approved with the old CIP plan. So, I mean, that's something that we can do, or we can just, I don't really want to hold it off, only because we want to get these, we want to get these consultants on board. I know staff worked hard to get these RFPs out, but, maybe we can modify it. Maybe let's do $50,000 per task orders until July. Once the new CIP plan comes out, then we can review that.
So can we double check? So Robert or Shannon, if we make a change today, does this still pass today, or does it have to come back, or do we have to make the motion to bring it back and then approve it at the next meeting?
No, we could have an amended, a motion to approve it as amended with the change of 120,000 to 25,000.
So can we make, Councilmember Damian, if you're okay, maybe we can make a motion today to amend it, drop the cap, and also direct staff to do the survey, so we can a later time bring it back and do it with a little bit more time. And that way our bidders aren't waiting and staff's work didn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead and approve it with the amendment that we bring down the task order down to $25,000, direct staff to do a survey within the surrounding cities to see what their caps are at.
All right, so do you have a motion?
That is my motion.
Second.
Great. Any objection?
Yes.
Okay, City Clerk, roll call.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Daniel Damian?
Yes.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, who seconded was there a second?
I did.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Monica Garcia?
Like I said, I'm not committed to anything here. I would like it to be informed, and I would have liked for this to be held off even one meeting, just so that we can make a more informed decision. Can I make a substitute motion? Can I make a substitute motion? And
well, I think there's a vote. There's already
we're roll call here.
Yeah, so we're on roll call, so you have to vote yes or no.
Well, City Attorney, can I make a substitute motion?
Regrettably, once the vote starts, no, you can't make a substitute motion. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, well, I'll just say no, just because I would like to be more informed.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
I'm going to say no, and it's not because I don't feel comfortable with the number that we're discussing at this time. I think I think the mayor mentioned the number 50,000. That would have been perfectly fine with me. At this point, in the sense of folks saying they don't know what's in the CIP, well, that's a very simple solution for all of us, and that's take the time with staff, have them brief you as to what the current CIP projects have been and what the current ones are left between now and December, and we could all be caught up to speed on that one. So I don't mean any disrespect to any of my colleagues, but I just would have wished that we would have been able to figure out whatever that number would have been, because I do believe this is just gonna perhaps boggle down the process and add additional layer of work that doesn't need to be done for staff. And it's not about the accountability, because as Sam has mentioned, we get a crack at the apple now 5 times. I'm not sure how much more transparency we need to be, but 4 times is one part. 7 or 8 or 9, 10 times, if that's what people want to do, then so be it. But I've seen these type of things, just boggle down the process. And so I suspect that we'll probably be addressing this at a later time, whether it's in July or August again. So thank you for the good discussion.
Mayor Emmanuel Estrada.
Yes, and so you are definitely correct, Councilmember. I can meet with staff, and I am in my office all the time, and staff knows that, and I love to bug them. But me meeting with staff in their office or my office is not going to allow me to vote on this. So I needed to come to the meeting. I needed to come to the agenda so that I can vote on it along with my colleagues and make a decision there. So we need them to come to so we need to be able to put them on the agenda so we can vote on them. And that's why we have these regular meetings. It will maybe boggle you down a couple of weeks, 1 or 2, till you wait till Wednesday at 7 o'clock when we vote on it. But other than that, if it's an urgent item, I'm sure my colleagues and I are ready to get on this. As I said, it's a matter of how, the new council is here and new council has to make decisions. So that's why I'm voting for this. Of course, the 25,000 was the original before we increased that 5-fold. And I say we, but it wasn't me. It was previous council. And we know that because, of course, it made headlines and it doesn't look right. So as we navigate this, we pay attention to the state audit, we pay attention to recommendations from bigger agencies than us, and we look for transparency and efficiency. And sometimes there has to be a give and take, and sometimes we can be more efficient than other times, but it's just a matter of trying things out and seeing what works, what doesn't, and continuing the dialogue. So yes, my vote is yes.
Mayor?
Yeah, so give me a second. City Clerk, what was the vote?
3 yes and 2 no.
Great, so motion passes. Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I would ask staff if they're going to be surveying some of the neighboring cities on their cap to find out a little bit about their process, because let's say the cap is a certain number, but they don't have the process of like reviewing the CIP plan in, initially and approving it. Then we're comparing apples to oranges. So just to be as informed as possible, then, let's understand a little bit about their process too, if we can. I know that's a lot of work, but, if that's what the council is requesting, then let it be apples to apples comparisons.
Yes, and that's fine. And of course, I know that sometimes things take work, and we are all grateful for the effort staff makes. As things transition and things change, there are going to be changes. There's going to be changes in ordinances, there are going to be changes in structure that new council wishes to seek, and that's just a part of politics, that's a part of democracy, and that's part of changing people throughout the terms. So staff, by all means, and we always hear out your recommendations, but city council just sometimes wants to make certain changes.
Mayor, I would also like to add that, one of the reasons why I am cautious about getting too involved with contracts is because it may give the appearance down the road that we're using these opportunities in ways that, we shouldn't. And so the more streamlined process that we can have, I think it's good. I think that it empowers our staff, but it also, creates accountability. I'm with you. I think if there are any concerns, we should address them. And, I'm all in favor of that. And I don't think what we did this evening is anything wrong or anything, that's not right or wrong. It's basically just creating a government that's accountable, that's transparent, that's efficient, that works, gets things done. But I would just caution that one of the criticisms that, I heard when we had a very low threshold is that was being used to leverage certain opportunities. And so I would just caution that. I like to stay high level. I don't like to micromanage too much. I keep, the responsibility to our CEO and to our directors. And there's a balance of, what I do, and then also empowering our staff. And we want to be able to identify that balance. And I'm not suggesting anything improper here. I'm just saying that's all I would caution. Because when we start to get too hands-on, that can be a concern. It can go in the opposite direction. And I don't think we really want to do that. I know that in the past we had a very low threshold, and then that was moved up to 75,000 and then to 125,000. So like I said, I'm not committed to any number. I would like it to be efficient, streamlined, on par with what other cities are doing. And to the extent that, I don't have to be micromanaging our hands-on, that's great. That's great, because that's why we have our staff there also, is, we want to empower them to do a great job for the city. That's all I want to say.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah, Councilmember Damian.
Yeah, and I'll just make this quick comment regarding this item, but I hear what Councilmember Monica Garcia is saying, but at the end of the day, we have to sign off on this. We are the ones that have to we are the ones that have to face the community. And when things go wrong, and I'm not saying anything negative about our staff, because we have a great staff, but at the end of the day, if we leave it in their hands and something goes wrong, they're not the ones that are going to face the community. We are. So it is ultimately our responsibility. And it's not that I try to micromanage, but it is something that we have to oversee. And not until we all feel comfortable as a council to say, hey, things are running smooth now, let's go ahead and give some more leeway, then I'm fine with that. But at the end of the day, we are the ones that are responsible for our taxpayers' money. So I will make no excuse if it seems like I'm micromanaging, to make sure that I'm saving my community members our tax dollars. It's not about micromanaging, and it's not about, trust me, if everything was nice and green on this side, I would have no problem with it. But there's a lot of issues that I'm not going to go into discussions with that raise red flags and make me vote the way that I vote. But again, it's nothing personal. It's nothing against our staff, and it's nothing that we want to micromanage. But we have to understand that we are the ones that are responsible to protect our community's tax dollars, and that's what I'm committed to do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it just helps us create a better discussion, and it's going to help us work closer to its staff. Staff's going to get a better feel of what this council wants and what we're looking for in projects and how we're trying to move forward. I trust staff. I'm very grateful for them. They've done a great job even during the pandemic. They've done phenomenal. But it's just a matter of making sure that there's communication between all of us and understanding what our concerns are, or what we're looking for, and moving forward. Okay. So with that being said, I believe we are moving forward to City Council acting as a successor agency of the DeSalt Community Development Commission. And there is a consent calendar, and I will make a motion to pass it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? No. So item passes. At this point, I move on to the public hearing, and there's a public hearing regarding fiscal year 2021 to 2022 annual action plan. So I will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody looking to speak in favor or against? City Clerk, is there anybody looking to call?
No, Mayor. None.
Great. So at this moment, I will move to approve the final 2021 to 2022 annual action plan and authorize the city manager to execute the documents required for submission of this plan for CDBG and home funds to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Can I get a second?
Okay.
Any objections? No, so item number 7 passes, and then we move on to amendment number 2 to fiscal year 2019-20 to 2020 annual action plan for community development, block grant, and home investment partnerships act, program federal funds, and amendment to the citizen participation plan. Is there anybody looking to speak in favor or against this item? City clerk, is there anybody looking to speak?
No, Mayor, no speakers.
Great, so at this moment, I will move to pass item number 8, the amendment number 2. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? So item passes, and we move on to reports of officers. And this is item number 9, the second reading of ordinance number 1459, entitled an ordinance of the city council of the city of Baldwin Park authorizing the city of Baldwin Park to enter into a development agreement with Outfront Media LLC for the approval of a conversion of an existing double-sided static billboard to a double-sided digital LED billboard structure at the real property located at 12921 Garvey Avenue along the Interstate 10 freeway within the city of Baldwin Park. And I will make a motion to pass that item.
Second.
Is there any objections? No objections, so item number 9 passes. That was the longest ordinance I've ever read in my life, so. And at this moment, we move on to city council. You know what, before we do that, I'm going to open up the Baldwin Park Finance Authority virtual meeting. And we're gonna there's one item on the consent calendar, and that's the treasurer's report for February 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. And so at this moment, I move to adjourn the Finance Authority regular virtual meeting. Can I get a second? Thank you. So Finance Authority virtual meeting is adjourned. At this moment, I move to open the Baldwin Park Housing Authority virtual meeting. And there is consent calendar, and there are 2 items on there, and I will make a motion to pass the consent calendar. Can I get a second? Did you say second, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Great, I hear you. Okay, and then any objections? No, so consent calendar passes. And now I move to adjourn the Housing Authority virtual meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? No objections. Meeting is adjourned. And now we move on to City Council, City Clerk, City Treasurer, staff requests, and communications. And so my request was first, and I am requesting City Council discussion and direction to appoint a separate attorney for cannabis services. Is there any questions or concerns, comments from our council? I think this is very important, so we can have somebody fully focused solely on that industry as we look to open up distribution and potential delivery. I think it's going to take a lot of time, and that way we have somebody just focused strictly on this issue.
I think that's a great idea to have a city attorney, an attorney that has expertise in cannabis in all areas of cannabis, to, like you said, focus on everything, whether it's the contracts, litigation, whatever may be coming our way when it comes to cannabis. I agree that it would be a good idea to go in that direction there.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from council? No? And then I believe Councilmember Damian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, mine's City Council discussion and direction to staff to prepare and process a requested for proposals for city attorney services. Anyone have any questions or discussion?
Can you elaborate on that, council member?
Yeah, so basically what I want is just to go out and go for RFP, see what else is out there. There's no timeline on this. There's nothing that we need to move fast on. I just want to explore to see what our options are.
Options, price-wise, or what are we looking for here?
Overall, everything, not just price-wise, but just, what else is out there.
Okay. And is this for city attorney only or?
Yes, this will be for city attorney services.
Okay. What is the process on that, Shannon? And how long is that process?
So yeah, if the council directed us to do the RFP, we would start out, that would be fairly similar to the RFP we did on specialty services, but it would probably take a little bit longer. And it's, if the city council decided they wanted to change city attorneys, you probably would want to do some more interviews with the firms, reviewing their proposals, costs, and qualifications. Also, but then interviewing the firms and see who that firm would appoint to the city of Baldwin Park, making sure that person is a match for the city.
So that is a lengthy process. I mean, I would consider it. I would like to wait a little bit on it, but I would like to consider in the future looking into the services, but I would like to hold off a little longer before we blog our staff with. I understand it's going to be a lot of work, and what you're saying, it's going to take a lot of interviewing and a lot of processing. So if we can hold off on it, I would be better with that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much, Councilmember Damian, for bringing this up for discussion. At this time, I feel comfortable with the services that we're providing. And along with Mayor Pro Temp, I don't necessarily believe that we should put out an RFP, because if that was the case, then that was the intent or the perceived intent is to replace the city attorney. So again, at this current time, I'm not in favor of sending an RFP for city attorney services at this time.
Well, this is not to replace the current city attorney now, and it's not something that we're going to automatically, because we're going to for RFP, we're going to basically replace the city attorney. But it's something that we can start exploring to see what else is out there, so that if there is any time where we do want to replace the city attorney, at least we know what is out there, what the costs are, and what type of firms we can potentially be dealing with.
I appreciate those comments, but I still feel strongly where I don't think we need to send an RFP at this time. But thank you.
Anyone else have any discussions?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Well, I do like the first recommendation that you brought to the council, and I do support that. I think on the second request that Councilmember Damian has agendized, I just question if it's the right time for this. I just would really like to see more stability. There's so much going on in our city, and I just don't want to see any instability with regard to, the business, the ongoing business of the city. So I would ask respectfully that if we could put this on hold, and for some stability and continuity, we're looking at bringing in a new CEO, and that CEO will need to get acclimated. There's a lot of hot topics in our city right now, especially as it relates to the legal issues or potential for lawsuits. So I would ask that we hold off on this, that we move forward with the first item brought to us by the mayor, hold off on this one. And again, just for the continuity, I just feel like we need it right now, especially since we're looking for a new CEO.
And it's nothing personal against City Attorney Robert Tafoya, but exactly because there is a lot of hot topics in our city, is realistically speaking, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but if we really want to move our city forward, it's wise for us to start exploring what else is out there, because at the end of the day, it's not something that we have a timeline on. It's not something that we're saying, hey, it's going to be happening in 2 to 3 months. It can take 6 months. Who knows? The fact is that we just want to explore, go out for RFP. What is out there? What are other costs? Not that we're trying to replace him immediately, not that we want to replace him at a timeline, but again, for the same reasons, because there is a lot of hot topics. And if we really do want to move our city forward, this would be something that we should start to explore. Not that we're getting rid of Mr. Tafoya tomorrow or anytime soon, or if we're even getting rid of him. The thing is, let's explore what else is out there so that if at any point in time that does come as an item, at least we know what's out there, what our options are, versus having to go and say, okay, you know what, it's time to put this on the agenda. Now we have to go out for RFP and figure out what is out there. We've already done the legwork. We've already done our homework, found out what other firms are out there. If it comes to that, then we already know, hey, we've already explored these options. Let's move forward with it. But at the end of the day, this is a discussion, whatever the majority of the council wants. I stick to my request that I feel that we should go out for RFP and explore what other options are out there.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. And I appreciate your comments, Councilman Damian. I know that we have a short list of attorneys and law firms that have been approved by the city council in the past, and I think more recently we've discussed that. What I don't want to see when I talk about hot topics, I'm talking about lawsuits or the potential for lawsuits. And I do want to see continuity. There have been a number of issues that have been going, for months, maybe years, and to bring a new firm up to speed on all the different items that come before us, plus a new CEO, that's not my preference. And I also want to be careful. I really want to be careful not to be reactive to some of these articles in the Tribune, because at the end of the day, what we've said is people enter into contracts and they sign on the dotted line. They are legally obligated to fulfill, their contractual agreements with the city. And I don't want to be reactive to, some of the Tribune articles. I want to be able to just look at, what is for the best interest and the stability of the city. And I don't feel comfortable making those changes at this time. And again, I just don't want to be reactive. That we have to keep in mind that there are people that have their own agendas. They have their own interests. They may not have the city's interest. And if they're bringing a lawsuit against the city or threatening to bring a lawsuit against the city, then most likely they don't have the city's best interest. So I certainly am not willing to empower or enable, that kind of rhetoric and that kind of behavior, especially when there have been legal obligations that need to be fulfilled. And the best interest of the city is for those parties to fulfill their legal obligations. So I'm not interested in empowering, people who are really just trying to kick up some dust out there. So when I'm mentioning hot topics, what I'm referring to more so are, the matters of the city that have been ongoing. And I would just appreciate the continuity, especially as we bring in a new CEO.
And Councilmember Garcia, I want to assure you that this has nothing to do with any Tribune articles. It has nothing to do with empowering anyone. And it absolutely has nothing to do with being reactive. I can assure you that without going into details, it has nothing to do with that. My reason to bring this onto the agenda are for things that I've observed myself. I've spoken about myself. Nothing to do with anyone in particular, no articles, none of that, because at the end of the day, I don't allow for any of that to make my decision. I make my decisions based on what I feel is the best for the city and the community. And in this particular case, again, I don't want to go into specific details, but I can assure you, Councilmember Garcia, that it has absolutely nothing to do with any of these articles or being reactive or empowering anyone. It has nothing to do with that at all. And it's nothing personal against Mr. Tafoya. Trust me, it's not. But again, at the end of the day, this is a discussion. I don't want to go into specific details as to, why I made my decision to bring this on. But again, it's just a simple fact of going out for RFP, checking what else is out there, and that's it. But again, I will reassure you, it's got nothing to do with any of the articles or empowering anybody.
Okay, Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
I just want to say that I do appreciate Councilman Damian that you have been, and often in your decision making, you have been very open and fair and very transparent, and so definitely not trying to take any of that away from you. I have appreciated that you're very thoughtful in your council decisions. But I'll just leave it there.
Councilmember Damian, did you have any more comments?
No. So I guess no, I don't know that, you can't make motions for discussion. So where do we go from here?
Yeah, so I think our staff is a little bit saturated. We're still, I believe our RFP or RFQ for legal service is still going. Is that correct, Shannon?
Yes, we should have that to you very soon in the next meeting or two.
Great. And then I think the majority of the council is comfortable with looking for a specialized cannabis attorney. So I think at this point we are saturating staff a little bit, Councilmember Damian. So if maybe once we get these legal services settled, we can bring your item back up for discussion if that is okay with you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, and I just want to add that I do look forward to bringing it in the future, but I just feel right now it's not a good time, but we can definitely look at it later and take it from there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And so I believe Councilmember Hernandez has the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and colleagues. I brought this item to our attention because I wanted, we've been discussing about, community input and so forth. And I figured now would be a good opportunity to have the city, along with essentially our Rec and Park staff and others, to design an online survey in which we could mail out on little postcards and ask some, key questions that, the council could certainly look at the potential survey to understand, what are priorities or type of services that they feel are, that we're doing really good. Or services or programs that they believe we need to do more of. And I think this will actually help us as we move forward through the budget process, because we can use some of that information. Now, my hope would be that we have all 60,000, 70,000 people in our city that do this type of survey. But the reality is we're probably going to get a small amount of input. But that small amount of input will be very helpful for all of us. The Valley County Water District just recently sent out a notice to folks here in the, to part of the city. And it's a really good example because all it was a little, 3x4 card. Not all of our residents receive this because not all of the city is under their service. But it was very simple with a QR code. Click on it. I think they asked like 6 or 7 questions in regards to, for them. I would probably ask that we, elaborate, once staff has a better sense of, what the questionnaire could be, bring that back to a study session so we can help refine that and make sure that we have, a better sense of what's going on. The one thing I would ask, if we can do this, it might be a little bit harder, but maybe through technology we can, through, SurveyMonkey or something like that, is to get a sense of, where these surveys are coming from our community. So that way we have a better sense, because each of us, we all talk to our residents and stakeholders in the community on a various basis, at the markets, at Starbucks, or wherever the case may be. But hopefully through the survey, if there's a way in which, someone could maybe perhaps just add their street number and the street address. And that just gives us a point on the dot. Because then what I'm hoping is Sam and his GIS team can map that out, and we can begin to see where some gaps of services exist in our city. And we can elaborate and use this as a tool each and every year as we move forward. Maybe we do this before we do the budget process, and maybe this becomes into a budget survey, but other of that sense. And that's something in which it's another way to help engage the community, and that we could each send out and try to get as many folks to provide their responses. And this also includes not only residents but also stakeholders, whether it's a business owner or an employee here that works in the city of Baldwin Park. Their voice matters just as much as a resident. So that's why I brought this forward to have and seek your input and thoughts and see what we can do about that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I like the idea of trying to figure out and pinpointing their location, right? Because they might want a service, and we might end up bringing that service, but maybe they live on the other side of the bridge by Fraser, and we're bringing the service over here to, I don't know, the north side of Baldwin Park. Then it doesn't help them anywhere because they can't attain it, right? So I think that's an interesting idea, and that way, as we move forward with the budget, we're able to not only kind of infer what residents want, but actually hear from them, and I think that's going to help get them and have them. I can't even speak today. Let them have a say in our budget process as we're gearing up for that. So yeah. Is there any other comments from council?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Yes, I support that. I would just want to make sure that we get responses from all pockets of our city, and just, I don't know how we would develop that survey, but just keeping in mind just the different pockets. And I think what we tend to see are kind of the same active constituents surfacing. And so I would just ask us to be thoughtful about how we survey so that we can touch on the different pockets of our community. And also keeping in mind that if it's online, not everybody in our community will go online. So, if there's another way to reach them, then that we consider that. So I support the idea. Just want to make sure that people from different pockets of our community are engaged.
Yeah. And then if worst case scenario, they don't answer to the postcards, city staff will start canvassing the neighborhoods, right? So.
Or maybe there is a outreach effort that we can look outside the box, and maybe there's a group of volunteers in our neighborhood or in our city that would be willing to lend their time to an effort like that. Or I know in the past, in my professional experience, we were able to activate neighborhood councils so that we could better understand what services we could saturate the neighborhood with, and it was very targeted, and that was all volunteer based. So yeah, maybe we can look at some volunteers in our neighborhood that would be willing. I know in the past we had I think it was a healthy eating active community volunteers that they helped us with the Safe Routes to School plan. So I think we could think this through and be creative if needed. Maybe even some consultants. But I know that there's a cost to that, so we're very sensitive to that. So anyway, there are different ways that we can do this. In other words.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of there's already a lot of groups here. I know a lot of churches have groups, and then we know LA Voice. There's other community groups and other people who are going to be willing to engage in that, because I know that there's always talk about what they'd like to see in our city. So this is that's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, was that you, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. It's a great idea to reach out to the community. Another way we can reach out to them is talk to the school district, see if they can help us. I know when they did the Safe Routes to School, we actually held meetings at the school sites. And I know right now they're not holding in-person meetings, but they're doing virtual meetings. So when they were going through the Safe Routes to School, there was actually parent meetings being held through the school district, so the parents can have some input. So we can hit a big pocket of the community to provide those ideas that Councilmember Hernandez has. And we would be able to hit all pockets of the city, like you said, since we want to make sure that we track them and we put the services that they want in the right part of the city. That tracking system is a great idea. So that's another option. Talk to the school district, see if they want to help us with that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We should always work with our school district in any capacity that we can.
Mayor.
Yes, City Clerk.
I'm always very quiet here. Another captive audience we currently have is at the vaccination center at the community center. We have about 3,000 to 3,500 individuals come through. Not all of them are Baldwin Park residents, but they're there. They're sitting there for 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. So we could identify those who are Baldwin Park residents and provide them with a quick survey and have them drop it off as they exit. That's another opportunity there. And it's ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great idea as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a line, so
yes.
No pressure, Manny.
Yeah, Ms. Marlene is our Kaiser connection, so that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't own Kaiser, though, okay?
I am, but you're a good connection.
I'll hang out at Raising Cane's or some other food eatery because
there you go.
As you're getting your order, I'll help you all fill out a digital survey at the same time.
We'll put somebody at Raising Cane, somebody at In-N-Out. I don't know where else there's another big line, but
I'm sure.
Catch them all.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so if there's no more comments or concerns, at this moment, I will move to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second?
Okay.
Great. Any objections? All right, meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Buenas noches.